From a lecture by Gibbon Tark to the 15th gathering of the Stewards of the Living, a biannual conference held at the Motel Roku on Vitruvia 4, conveniently located just 2 jumps off the spine just south of the Abraxamander stellar corridor. So I was in the spaceport on Proctor Station, and I had the conversation again. We all have the conversation at some point, don't we? But I've had it a lot, because I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I post a lot of videos about being who we are, knowing what we know. So people come up to me when I'm out in public. I don't mind it. It's part of my job to educate folks about this stuff. But this guy decided he was going to try to school me. Good luck, buddy. He starts in with the usual bunk about how a mind can't exist without some kind of neurological structure. And I pointed out that there was a freaking analyte in the terminal with us. And she is literally a plasma cloud in a glass ball. But he wants to say that she doesn't have a mind. So of course, he starts trying to explain the concept of pseudo-neural energy matrices to me. Yeah, guy, that's exactly what we've been saying all along. A brain doesn't need to be a physical connection of neurons. It doesn't even need to exist in our dimension. It's wholly possible for an entity, yes, even as large as a planet, to have a mind that's invisible and undetectable. Galactic mythology is full of stories about them. Did people just make this shit up? No! Planets have minds. Wake up, people! Maybe not all of the time, but definitely some of the time. There's a mind in there. They're out there. They're waiting for us. We have to find them. People just need to open their eyes and throw off the yoke of conventional thinking, and they'll see the truth. But he kept pushing me, and my flight was pulling in. So I told him what I tell everyone. Watch my videos. It's all in there. All the proof. Everything. Just watch my videos.
Welcome to The Chimera, a role-playing adventure show. This week we are back in the sci-fi superhero universe of the old bones, and we're finally rejoining our crew in the present day. A couple quick announcements before we get started. This is the beginning of the last arc of our first season. We're going to have some more details at the end of the episode and in weeks to come, so stick around if you're interested in the future. Also, as I'm sure you're aware, this campaign runs on a pre-release version of the story path system. Well, if you want in on the actual version, check out Onyx Path's Kickstarter for the official Trinity Continuum core books. This is the updated version of the system we've been playing since college, and all the updates are very cool. The Kickstarter runs till March 1st of this year, which is 2018, for those of you just catching up. But if you missed it, you can probably just buy the books like a regular person in the store now. So hey, everybody wins. All that said, it's time to get started. I'm Vin LeBate, and I'm playing Sidra, a living financial instrument, and joining me this week are...
I'm Braden Lamb. I'm playing Dang, an energy-eating space rhino bodyguard.
I'm Kacey Smith, playing Molly Harrow, a human technophile and gadgeteer, and the captain of the ship Chimera.
I'm Kelly Weissman Aspruth Jackson. I portray Theron Melanthios, a 7-foot-tall heretical catman.
I am Jeffrey Bard, and I play Releth, a galactic lawyer from the wrong side of the Akashic Bleed, and pilot of a mech that goes by the name of Moonin.
And, of course, our GM, Josh Hall-Bachner. Josh?
So, we begin in the far depths of a vast asteroid. Purplish rock cradling these gemstone deposits of green and red that seem to glow with kind of a pale luminescence and give some ability to see in this underground area. Tunnels that wind off in every different direction. A complicated worm's nest of interlocking tunnels and caves that stretch out to indeterminate distance in every direction. And down one of the relatively horizontal hallways of these, the crew of the Chimera is currently running at top speed.
Uh-oh.
Not to be a dick about it, but I think we have some pretty different top speeds.
This is true.
Yeah, what does that look like actually if you're trying to escape something as quickly as possible, and obviously people can run at very different speeds. What is that? What's the crew's plan on that?
I mean, if
I'm probably double fisting two people.
Yeah,
I would put that differently.
You know,
Crazy.
like drinks.
I'm not sure that's all the way there.
It's probably Molly and Sidra in two hands, the two smaller ones.
Well, I feel like Releth in Munin could probably keep up with Theron.
Oh, definitely. No.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So between those two, they should be able to haul the rest of us slowpokes.
I assume Dang is just like getting scruffed.
What do you do when you have when you have two other people with you that also can't move as fast?
Do we like these other people?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had two other people that we've liked before.
Well, it's the first time for everything.
Braden, I perceive Dang as somewhat slow, but that's really just because of his build. I don't think that's necessarily true statistically, right? He's not actually physically. If anything, he should be faster than Sidra and Molly, right?
In pure dot terms, I would guess it's might and athletics.
I believe
so.
Right.
I'm at 9 there.
Yeah. So you're actually. He's actually pretty fast.
Yeah, he's deceptively fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, depending on the scenario, I have scale.
How are you gonna run fast?
If you're on the
money?
run from a financial issue, is that if we're trying to get away from your creditors?
I'm gonna say that there are circumstances where like you could use your financial scale to like rent a space Segway and like escape at a fast clip, but this is not one of those.
No, I did mean my other scale.
Okay. If this is a dine and dash situation.
Okay, I think so. We have two people with us.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get to know anything about those people?
So there's one person, kind of reddish orange, reasonably elongated person, and basically what you would think of as kind of like science-y type scrubs, which are seriously singed in multiple places, who is unconscious, and an elderly Nasiri. You can tell that she's elderly because all of her bright parrot feathers are starting to edge with gray and white, who is missing all of her wings, and who is awake, but as I said, elderly.
Oh wow! So not just as slow as the slowest of us, but way slower.
Way slower.
Okay.
You can carry them. I think I can keep up.
Yeah, I think we're all probably moving on at our own rate, so that just means we're moving at the slowest member of the party's rate.
Yeah.
That would be me.
Well, I would probably be grabbing the two slowest, right? So maybe Molly and the Nasiri. And then we'll go at the next slowest person, right? Whoever that might be.
Yeah, well, that one guy is unconscious, so he's probably technically the slowest.
He would definitely be the slowest, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think
we're just
he needs
leaving
to be carried by somebody
we're just leaving.
with arms. See, I'm thinking Dang's running is more sort of a gallop, where he employs his tentacles to throw them ahead of him and actually kind of pull himself forward.
Very good. Very good.
Oh, so you're loping. Would you say that's an accurate description?
Yeah.
Loping, yeah.
Does Theron run on 2 legs or 4 legs?
His top speed is on 4 legs.
Mm-hmm.
He can still run plenty fast on 2 legs, but if he's really flat out, he's going on 4. So what I think is probably happening is Rolith and Dang are at the front because they're both at least reasonably fast, and they're two of the three heavies. And then Theron is taking advantage of his high rate of speed to sort of move in kind of a circle around the party as they move. So he's sort of moving back and forth from being in front to being on the side to being in the rear to try and make sure that everybody's as safe
so
as
literally
possible.
Running circles around us.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
So you're hurting the group.
Yeah.
I feel like this metaphor is backwards.
Hey, look, it's hard to hurt cats, but it turns out the cats are pretty good at hurting.
So who has the unconscious guy?
I think we said that was going to be with Rolith.
Okay.
Are you like carrying him in your hand, or?
Yeah, I figure Molly in one hand, unconscious guy in the other, and I'm just flying.
Okay. So as you guys run, the ground is shaken every kind of 3 or 4 seconds by the distant explosions that you know are ripping through various and sundry different parts of this asteroid. If anybody turns for a moment to look behind, you can see that the waves of superheated plasma are continuing to follow you, though not necessarily at a speed that is imminently dangerous yet, as long as you guys keep moving at the speed that you're currently at.
Wait, so we're actually outrunning a fireball?
Basically.
It sounds to me a little bit more like it's like a cascading series of fireballs, right?
Yeah, there's if you need to know exactly, there is a
pretty important.
a superheated plasma substance that is flowing through these caverns from a source at a speed that's slower than the speed of a full explosion, but which is causing various things within the caverns to explode when it superheats them as it passes by.
So
this is more like a plasma magma flow then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The floor is literally lava.
Plasma flow? A masma?
A miasma
I like that.
of superheated plasma?
It is my miasma of superheated plasma. That is correct.
That is my favorite Dr. Seuss poem.
And my favorite Doctor Who episode.
Oh, this episode is going nowhere fast.
You better hope it's not going nowhere fast.
But it is going fast.
The plasma will get you.
All right.
Okay, so basically all the time, every probably 500 feet or so, you hit kind of another junction point where these branch off in multiple directions. You can maybe try to guess like which ones are actually going to lead up to the surface, but it's not 100% obvious.
Now, is this just an asteroid, or is it some sort of facility built into an asteroid?
There's a facility that you guys were previously at.
Is it networked?
No.
But presumably there's some kind of map that they made at some point of this place and put it digitally somewhere.
Oh wait, where's the Chimera?
On the surface.
So
are we trying to get back to it?
I am.
I mean, we're on an exploding asteroid. I think getting back to the ship would be a good idea.
It's a solid instinct.
I mean, I would like to suggest that Molly has, in the time that she's been on the Chimera, created some way to like locate it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she can use that to get back to the surface.
Okay. How are you like calling out directions or something then?
Yeah. At each turn, she'll just shout which way to go.
Okay. Okay. So that works. That can work out pretty well for you. There's a couple spots where you'll go down one, and then you'll basically be running a little bit. You'll see an explosion kind of tear through it up front. You got to turn around and back up. But you have enough of a lead at this point that you can afford a little bit of that. So you're kind of ducking, weaving through these, spiraling, feeling yourself kind of like getting a little bit closer to the surface. The air, if you want to call it that, seems to be getting a little bit cooler as you rise. So it does seem like you're kind of getting towards the surface.
Can we breathe here? Or are we all in spacesuits?
I figure you probably...
I'm a spacesuit.
You probably have I mean, how many people? Like, I think we established that only like a small number of people even need like breathing help anyway. Is that right?
Theron had to put on a suit before, if I remember correctly.
Or a mask.
He doesn't have anything explicitly. Yeah, a mask.
Yeah,
right?
I think this is like one of those like rebreather mask type situations. Like you don't have a spacesuit. It's just,
Okay.
You can see on your indicator, you're probably just kind of one very long, kind of upwards curving tunnel from the surface at this point, Molly.
Almost there, guys. Home stretch, home stretch.
This tunnel starts to open up and widen as you kind of get into it. Most of the ones you've been going through so far are maybe like 10, 15 feet wide, and this kind of, opens up to be like 30 or 40. Ceiling kind of arches up overwards a little bit. But as you're running through it, some of the explosions you've been hearing seem to get a little bit closer, and some of the pieces of the roof of the tunnel you're running in start to crack and break off. So if I could get, let's say, Sidra, Dang, and Rolith to each give me some kind of roll to avoid.
That'd be, say, finesse agility.
Finesse agility is one thing that could do that, yes.
Absorption?
Absorption should work, yeah. The two ends of the spectrum of dealing with falling rocks. Uh-huh. Don't get hit with the rock. Do get hit with the rock.
Does absorption work for rocks?
Well, it's his force shield. So he.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna hang on. I gotta roll my dice. I wasn't prepared for this rolling stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I misheard. These are this is debris. This is not energy that's coming at us.
Oh, yeah, no, this is
because specifically my absorption is for energy damage. So okay, I won't be doing that. I'll do force field.
Then force field, yeah.
No one's gonna make a "the roof is on fire" joke.
No.
I don't want to date myself too much.
It's not the year 2000, so.
Yeah, luckily we did not actually record our long pre-game conversation about the George W. Bush administration, so nobody has to know we had it.
Oh boy.
I can't remember what my dice pool is for force field. I don't have it written down anywhere. I've got maintaining a field is vitality plus integrity. Probably do that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
This is like the first time we've rolled in weeks.
Ages.
Yeah. We're really doing, trying to do rolls in these like flashback games is a little bit difficult if we don't have somebody to like actually put together like all these extra character sheets and everything.
Yeah.
I was gonna roll pilot plus finesse.
That works. So you're just gonna basically kind of fly around the rocks.
Yeah. And then I'm also gonna use my skill trick. It all works the same, also known as lawyer training.
So
what is that?
Actually, no, that's not applicable here. Never mind. That only works if I'm doing something other than mooning.
So I have one success on finesse agility, and I'm not sure if my self-defense scale counts in this situation, but if it does, I do have that.
I think so. I mean, if you're able to use that to like dodge and avoid more effectively in combat, this isn't like fundamentally that different.
Yep. So I got that.
It's in the same territory.
And I got 6.
I got 4.
Okay. So what was the total with the scale then?
If it's 3 successes per scale, then 4.
Okay.
2 successes. So 3.
So big pieces of the rock are falling out of the ceiling. I think basically given that Sidra is kind of like kind of watching upwards and kind of ducking to the side and kind of hopping and I don't know, maybe like rolling or something.
Yeah.
A little bit as needed. I guess Dang is just kind of walking with an umbrella basically and letting the rocks smash into it.
A light umbrella.
And you're just kind of zipping around and dodging them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Stopping when I need to, hitting gas when I want to.
So you're good there. No particular negative effects. You can get to the point where you're just about coming up to the lip where the tunnel kind of bends upwards and then kind of lets out onto the surface.
Yay!
It's kind of an S shape, like you're kind of in a hallway, and then it bends up a little bit, and then it kind of lets out right there horizontally onto the surface, like kind of out of the side of a hill. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like coming out of a cave.
Yep.
Basically.
All right, Raleth does a quick look back to make sure that everybody's there and accounted for, and then bursts out as quickly as they can to get like a quick overview of everything that's going on the surface.
Okay. So you come out onto the surface, and you can quickly pick out a few factors. The metallic debris from the remains of the poor unfortunate station that you were previously in is continuing to rain down from above. Large explosions are still ripping through parts of the surface at a distance, and sending rock and crystalline formations into the air. The vast blue surface of Malice 5 still hangs directly above head, cold and terrifying. And off well in the distance, maybe 2 miles by foot, you can see the Chimera.
2 miles?
Whoa.
Why did we park so far away?
I don't think this is the way we came in, right? This is us basically taking the alternate way out. We came out on the wrong side of the mall, basically.
Yes.
Or like, where's our car?
That is exactly the metaphor here, yes.
You have to go all the way across the parking lot.
I told you there were 2 Cinnabons.
No one goes to the mall anymore.
That's why everybody gets lost there. Can we contact it and beckon it over? Like remotely?
I assume Molly is usually the...
Molly, can you whistle?
Yeah, I mean, she can. She doesn't have any means of actually directly controlling the Chimera, but she can certainly lodge a request.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which I hope is a whistle.
Sure, but with her her metallic hand, and it's one of those like pinky and thumb in the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
like
That's perfect.
that I can't actually do.
Yes.
Okay, so you're able to you make the call as you've done many times before, and at a distance you can see the Chimera start to light up. The energy portions that emanate from the lion kind of glowing extra bright as it does when it's starting to take off. You can see it lift off. It starts to take a path, maybe only like 20-30 feet up in the air towards you guys to meet you. And it gets about a quarter of the way in terms of closing the distance when the yellow energy kind of takes on an orangish red tint, stops in place, and then you see it swivel quickly and rocket straight up away from the planet.
No.
Well, that's new.
Problematic.
How much time do we have before we all die?
You'd guess it's probably measured in minutes.
Okay. Do we know of any other vehicles or means of leaving that we encountered in our adventures?
The unconscious guy would know.
Well, okay. So Molly's gonna look over at the unconscious guy sort of flopped in Ralph's other hand, and she's just give him a real good slap and see if that does anything.
He kind of shakes a little. He's like, "Are we on the ship yet?"
No. Change of plans. So we need your ship.
My ship.
Any ship, really.
Yeah, or pretty much anything that will leave, because ours left, but we're still here.
Oh, well, if we need another ship, we just want to go over. He kind of blinks a little, opens his eyes. Looks like he's about to start pointing, and then just his eyes get like super wide as he starts to reflect what's like actually happening. He goes, let me figure something out.
Dan gets a little closer to him and says, just stay here. I've got us covered. And extends the force field.
And at this point, basically from along the path of where the chimera flew off, something, beyond the debris and the rock and everything that's been falling before, something different that you hadn't seen before starts to basically kind of float along the breeze over by where you are. And it seems like sheafs and sheafs of paper that are just kind of blowing through the air.
Oh,
and then
no.
Oh, this is not going to be
landing
good.
on the ground and then being consumed in fire. So, 72 hours earlier.
I know what you're thinking. How did I get here?
Yes. So we'll start with man, I just totally lost it. Kelly, your character's name.
Theron.
Theron, yes, thank you. We'll start with Theron. What would be kind of a normal, like, day-to-day maintenance task that Theron might be doing on the ship?
Maintenance task. Interesting question. I mean, I think that he's responsible for at least the bulk of the harvesting in the food jungle. And
he probably like cycles the weapon systems.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think about what does maintenance look like in the snake. I wonder if maybe he has to feed part of the snake.
Okay. What's he feeding it?
I think he brings a couple of meat melons into the small overhot humid room that is the main portion of the snake, and cuts little bits out of the melon and feeds it to the little snake arms that allow him to jack into the interface.
Oh god, this is so much worse than I thought it was going to
be. Yeah, as a reminder, the snake is gross.
Yeah. Okay, so you're just kind of feeding little pieces of meat melon to little, bitey pseudopodia extruded from your spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're kind of doing that, and so I guess I'm going to imagine that you probably have to do that, and then you basically probably have to like change the water afterwards.
Sure.
So I think the basic way that this is going to happen is you kind of you go through the melon that you've got. There's probably basically someplace where it's probably almost like like beetle wings or something, like basically something that opens like a cabinet, but it kind of has this weird biological shape to it. That you open up, and there's a something like a dish sort of carved out of like something that you would something like horn or something like that. Some kind of hard biological surface, and you basically like are tipping a kind of a bucket of ice water into it. And as you do that, something about this process, the sound and the look and the sensory experience of this ice clattering into this seems to twinge something like deep, not in Theron's memories, but in memories that Theron has a form of access to. And he sees something first, a sight of basically an ice waterfall on a surface of something just coated with thick ice in every direction. A moving river that's kind of just moving barely fast enough to avoid freezing itself, cutting through with the area that he's in, and then into a lake that is actually kind of frozen, or kind of a large body of water that is frozen over. And somewhere underneath the thick ice of that, you can almost see some kind of shadow moving. So you kind of have this memory for a second, and then you come back to it.
alone in the snake, Theron does that whole body shiver in the way that makes his fur stand up on end for a second, and then goes back to what he was doing.
Now, here's something I'm not sure that we've established completely.
Mm-hmm.
When Emporos communicates with you, is it all purely visual? Like, so we've established that there's the memories that you sometimes have, right? And then that he can kind of give commands or instructions or whatever. But is that communication all verbal, or does it come in the form of like kind of like received knowledge, I guess?
Emporos definitely needs to be able to communicate to him in something that isn't visual, right? Because he has to be able to communicate fairly complicated ideas, and it's so far, especially for a command, Theron is never confused or uncertain about its meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't just be like pantomime and Pictionary.
Right.
What I've been imagining is that Emporos speaks in the Mejoi tongue, which is, sounds like a modem, basically. It's just crazy electronic noises. But Theron understands it when he speaks.
Okay. Well then, that after kind of a pause for Theron to kind of shake out and everything, the voice is basically just going to tell him, go to the engine room.
Theron puts down the bucket and goes to the engine room.
Okay. So you head down there. Is there anybody else who you think might be hanging out there? Anybody?
Molly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hard pass on Cinder's part.
Hard pass.
I might be there, having carried some energy to fill a fuel cell.
Okay, so what do you think you're doing?
Carried the energy in me and feeding it back into the...
Are you mama birding the ship?
No, because it doesn't come out the same part of my body.
Oh god, that's so much worse again.
But I think we should all pause to be thankful that Theron is mama birding the ship.
Yeah. I think we. I don't know if you heard the Molly's interview of Dang, but we established that this energy that he is throwing off is actually waste.
I guess that only makes sense, and yet is extremely horrible.
He's just pooping over everybody.
Right. The alternative was that he was vomiting all over everybody all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this does make more sense, but I'm even less happy about it.
Yes.
Not always just poop.
I wish I could poop rainbows, honestly.
Oh dear, Dang's a unicorn.
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna say that. Unicorns don't look at all like I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he did have one horn, so like.
Yeah. But the tentacles, I would not have guessed.
And I've been rendering him as vaguely pinkish.
With a small emblem on his ass.
That was Quay's mistake, trying to pass you off as an angel when obviously he was not going for the right mythological creature here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Theron, you come in, and almost immediately, like you kind of know you need to look at the star grid, basically that's kind of up on the wall.
All right.
I imagine that the way that this probably winds up working is almost like a game of hot and cold. Like you kind of put your finger on it somewhere, and kind of the chirping or buzzing, like cicada noise, kind of gets louder as you kind of move it in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Hot and cold makes sense. I'm actually picturing it as a little bit more like a Ouija board, sort of feeling my way around.
That makes sense. That's probably better. But either way, Molly, Theron kind of runs in and then starts pointing in a weird and inobvious way at the board and moving his finger around between the stars without any obvious purpose or saying hello.
I mean,
he has his eyes closed while he's doing this.
Is this kind of thing real unusual, or like has she seen him do something like this once or twice before?
Theron moving about the ship in something like a trance-like state. My guess is that you've seen something like this before.
Okay.
Probably like only so briefly that you weren't even able to really call him on it. but it's also not like. I think this is probably something you've noted from the past is like, I think maybe Theron has this behavior that I want to watch out for and try to observe in the future.
Okay.
So familiar enough basically to not think that this is like some new problem that's arisen, but not familiar enough that it's just like, oh, it's just that Theron doing his weird sleepwalking thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think Dang is sufficiently freaked out that he's going to try to interrupt whatever this activity is, just to make sure that he's with it.
So Molly's on the ceiling because the way the Chimera is set up, it's concentric spirals basically going through everything. So not everything that she needs to access is conveniently on like floor or like reachable levels. Half of the mechanics and all that are kind of stretched across the roof. So she's sort of like hanging upside down, got her legs sort of hanging over this bar, and she's kind of like soldering something. Who knows what she's doing? But she sees Theron come in and sort of do this, weird pointing at the map with his eyes closed, and she sees Dang about to interrupt him, and she just says, "Dang, wait, leave him alone. I want to see what happens."
All right.
Okay, so I'm pointing with Theron's pointing with his eyes closed. He's listening for the buzzing, seeing where it gets loudest.
Molly's just going to reach her hand out, which is her silver hand that just sort of flies away and comes up next to Theron's hand so it can just follow his motions, and so she can see through her goggles more closely what he's finding.
Okay. So you're still kind of moving your finger around. It's kind of a slow process. While you're kind of watching this, Molly, you get like a little ding, in your, I don't know, what kind of notification do you get if you essentially have like a voicemail?
When she's got her goggles on, it's probably just like a message that flits across almost like on your cell phone. Like, you have a message or incoming message.
Okay, well you get that then.
Okay. Does it say who it's from?
Yeah, so this message is from Kacey Smith, who is a planetary biologist, somebody that you've basically crossed paths with in the past, a positive, Scientological acquaintance, basically.
Okay, so if she can continue to focus on what Theron's doing as well, she's also going to listen or read the message, depending on its format.
Okay, yeah, so she'll listen. The message starts, so it's a rather, rather elongated, orangish reddish guy in a very nice, pristine set of sciencey type scrubs, who's just like, "Hey Molly, I hope you have time to listen to this. I was just wondering. I know that you have a pretty good ship, and I've found myself a little low on transportation at the moment. I have a new gig that I'm going to be starting soon that I think might be a little interesting to you, and I was hoping we could maybe work something out, maybe get me a ride. I don't know if you're in the neighborhood. Just you can hit me at this number. Give me a call, and here's where we're going. If you're up for it, I mean, I'll catch you later. Peace." And then, so there's a set of coordinates on it.
Okay, so she's gonna sort of apply those coordinates to the map that Theron is also inspecting, but it's also the star map most convenient to her.
You throw them up, and a single system kind of down towards the base of the spine, right in the depths of Nasiri space, starts to light up just as Theron's finger traces itself down to point at the same spot.
Ooh.
Oh. Hey, it's a double whammy. So she's gonna call up. What was his name again?
Kanux. Kanux.
Kamux.
N is
Kanux.
the other one. I'll paste it in the
Okay.
chat. I should just do this every time I say a name, just to start with,
Sorry.
because it's always a okay spell.
So
Spelled
Molly's
like
gonna
multiple people from Canada.
Kanux.
Oh, now I'm gonna say it wrong forever. So she's gonna call up Kanix while still hanging upside down and still sort of watching Theron now that the spot has been identified.
So when Theron finds the spot, just for reference, the Elori don't use their second digit like a pointer finger as a matter of habit. They gesture with the whole hand and sort of indicate with the central digit.
Oh, okay. That works too.
Yeah, I figure that's a little bit more in keeping with the evolutionary history of it, the hand being a paw. So once he comes to rest on the point with the maximum buzzing noise, I figure he opens his eyes and takes note of it. Any other communication from Emporos, or is that it?
Not yet. I mean, based on your communications with Emporos in the past, like this, it feels like, if somebody's asking you like to do something and they're like, okay, look, like basically it's kind of the pitch where it's like, okay, look, this is going to be complicated. So let's get started. Meet me with your truck at like, this intersection. That's kind of the phase of the conversation you're at. So it's kind of got the implicit promise of more to come, but like, pointing out a place to go first.
Yeah. Yes, in this metaphor, Emporos is Ben Affleck and Theron is Jeremy Renner.
Oh, God. I just want to say you rendered yourself, not me. So...
So Molly calls this guy up.
Okay. It rings for a minute and then he picks up. Still kind of he's basically just calling from like a coffee shop, basically. Like he's got a laptop or something out on a table and he's just kind of video calling you. He's like, "Oh, hey Molly, you're there. How's it going?"
Hey Kanix, going pretty good. I'm just watching my cat man get a message from God. What's new with you?
He kind of stops. He raises a finger as if he's going to comment on that, and then he decides against it, lowers the finger again. He's like, "Oh well, so I just, I know, we've talked about this, right? I didn't think it was going to work out, but I just heard back from somebody in the stewards, and they are interested in having me come and do a survey, like a planetary survey. Like this is a big opportunity, Like I haven't gotten to do this. Somebody's finally recognizing the work that I've done here. So anyway, I am a little bit between transportation, right? Just at this exact moment. I will have a ship again. I just don't, today. But they want me to get out there quickly. And, I sat there and I thought through like everybody I know, like who has a cool, really fast ship. And, obviously, your name came right to my mind. And, I figured maybe you'd want to tag along, see the facility. Maybe there's something cool for you to look at there. I don't know. I mean, there might be some weird old stuff, right? There's weird old stuff on the lab
I got a feeling there might be something pretty cool there. Sure, we can give you a lift. Where are you at right now?
Oh, I'm, he kind of sends over some coordinates that are, not too far in the distance. Little like, basically like, kind of corner station and, maybe 2 steps off the spine. Like he's basically in kind of a space mall food court here.
Okay. So we gotta like get on the turnpike, but it's not too many exits.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we'll be there probably in a couple hours. We can hang tight till then. And I'm happy to give you a lift.
Cool. See you soon. He kind of grins and hits the button to close the call.
So Molly kind of, she basically just swings and then kind of lets go with her knees of the bar that she's on, but she's got mag boots, so they kind of suck her to the wall, and then she just walks down and turns them off again. And her hand moves away from the star chart and kind of back to her wrist, and she walks over to Theron and looks over at him and says, so I guess we know where we're headed next.
Here. I want to go to here.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine who wants to go to there too, so we're just gonna pick him up and we'll go there. Where is here? What's the name of the place? Do we know? Does it have a name?
Yeah, it's the Malice system.
The Malice system.
Malice with an I or a U?
I.
So they knew what was going on when they named it.
Yeah, Malice like the thing that's bad that you don't want.
Okay. Is there anything known about it? Like generally known about it?
It's in the series space. It has an Old Bones linkage, but it's not really particularly populated. There's there's several small, rocky planets, and then one, large one that is basically like an ice, I'm trying to think of I'm not going to remember, but it's significantly larger than Earth, but still has like a planetary core, and the surface is basically just completely covered in water, mostly frozen over, but there's some movement and.
So sort of place might have an ice waterfall.
Yes.
Frozen lake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something lurking in the depths.
Yep. Checks out.
Okay.
All right. Are we going to have any sort of family meeting about the fact that we're changing course and taking on a job?
Yeah. Molly's going to say over the intercom system, hey, if everyone can meet me up in the Lion, we'll change of plans. From having no plans to having one.
Roger that, Captain.
A little light comes on that essentially says message received from Sidra.
So Molly heads up into the Lion. And, a bunch of lounge chairs kind of materialize so they can all sit in a circle and chat briefly. And she says, so there's this planet in the Malice system that a friend of mine would like to go to, and he does some work that I find interesting, so I would like to kind of see what he's up to with that job. So we're gonna just grab him and head on over there, unless anyone's got any reasons why we shouldn't.
Do we need to abduct him?
How much are we getting paid?
In the time that it's taken Molly to say all that, I've scanned for whatever possible records I can find on the Malice system.
Okay. For the most part, the system itself not tremendously more detailed. Like I said, it's it's a stopover point, right? Like it's not really particularly mineral rich. It's not a mining destination. There's nowhere nice to go there, so like nobody's really set it up as like a tourist trap or anything. It's basically just along the path to a different place that is in itself not that interesting in the middle of mysterious space somewhere. It's kind of named to match. The thing that is mostly interesting here, and this kind of ties into what Kinix is talking about. But basically, the organization called the Stewards of the Living have recently set up an observation post around this big ice giant planet. You can kind of see the money that went into like kind of pulling together the resources to actually commission this and kind of get a whole station built out on something orbiting this planet, and that they've started to basically hire people on. It looks like they're staffing up probably around 150 people to operate on this base. Looks like probably about half of that have closed. So you can tell that he does not appear to be lying about his job offer. Like, you can find his name, they're going to pay him some money. So it seems like that's legit. Yeah.
So Molly is going to look at Theron and say, no, he asked us for a ride. She's going to look at Ralith and say, why do you always ask that? We have this conversation every single time.
Well, because we should get paid for helping people. It's kind of what my whole profession's based around.
Right, but now we live with someone who just
a natural instinct
is
of mine.
literally made of
I can't
money.
just not be me. You want me to be somebody else, Molly? I can't do it.
I just want you to find a new item of value that you can demand every time, because
But money is universal. We can all relate to it.
she just points to Sidra.
I find it tremendously relatable.
Everybody wants money. That's why they call it money.
Yep, Molly, is your friend involved with the Stewards of the Living?
Yeah. He got a job through them. They're going to survey this planet, and he's real excited about it. And I find his research pretty interesting, so I'd like to see him get started.
Aren't they generally crackpots?
I mean, look. Yes, but when I was looking for the Chimera, they were one of the few groups that took me seriously. So maybe I kind of owe them a little bit.
Oh. Well, it doesn't actually say that. Just Jeff.
Anyway, it'll be fun. Let's go.
I mean, not even gas money?
Entirely coincidentally, my compatriots, I feel I should let you know that I have received a vision.
Oh, right. Yeah, also that.
A vision.
A vision?
Yes. Something of great import is happening in the Malice system.
Do you get these vision? Have you ever had a vision before?
Now and then.
I mean, I can help you through it if you need some assistance.
I am well. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I mean, anything we should be prepared for?
Something of great import is happening in the Malice system.
But I mean, like good or bad or,
Well, it is called the Malice system.
This is true. It is not called the giant ball of yarn system.
Is that a system?
It's got to be.
Only in my dreams.
I'm sure in the Akashic Bleed somewhere, there's a bunch of cat men who have built their own planet. It's just yarn.
All right. So let's put that one on the list.
It should be pretty clear to any observers that Sidra checked out of this conversation about 3 minutes ago and just pulled up at least a couple of screens, watching like some old sitcoms on one and maybe Galactic News on the other, and then paying like 10% attention to the other people in the room.
Yeah, that seems pretty normal.
Okay. So I guess at that point, then you guys can probably go and pick Kanix up without any particular incident. He kind of comes on board, and he's got basically like 2 duffel bags worth of stuff. He kind of steps on board the ship and is definitely kind of craning his neck, looking around, very impressed. Ooh, this is even cooler than I thought. He kind of goes over and starts poking at, some of the chitin on the wall in one of the snake portions.
Right. Molly just kind of grins because she likes when people think the Chimera is cool.
He starts kind of knocking with his finger to kind of like hear what sound comes out.
Not that one, says Dang.
He stops right before he takes his time. It's like, you are Dang? Is that right? I think I know who you are.
Yep. You've heard of me?
I mean, Molly and I talk sometimes.
Okay.
Who else you got around here?
Oh, well, actually, is everyone like here? Or is everyone like dispersed?
I don't know where here is. I'd probably be in the lounge somewhere.
Yeah, I'm probably up there also.
Sure, I think the rest of us are probably in the
Up in the goat.
up in the goat.
Okay. Well, yeah, come with me. I'll introduce you to everybody.
Okay, he follows eagerly.
She leads him and Dang into the goat and says, "Hi, everyone. This is Kanix Iori. He and I have worked together a couple of times. Kanix, this is Theron, and then over there is Sidra, and then the lamprey aardvark in the back is Rolith.
Hey, how's it going? So appreciate you, throwing in for gas. I'm sending you a bill right now. You can pay it whenever. It's cool. We trust you. Molly vouched.
Sidra waves and in her head pulls up Kanix's entire financial identity.
Yeah, I mean it checks out. He's kind of like a postdoc planetary biologist. So he, studied science, but like an extremely narrow and difficult to utilize science. So he kind of has bounced between various gigs doing things that are like slightly orthogonal to like what he would normally be doing. So having this come up, it seemed like a great chance for him, to actually kind of, use his degree, as it were.
Theron, as he often is eating. He has a long sort of stick that's much like a stalk of Brussels sprouts. You know how they all bulb off of a single stalk, except that what's on the stalk looks a lot like small clams. And so he's sort of ripping the chitinous shell open on each of them and slurping out what's inside, and looks up from that and says, "Hello there.
Hey.
Would you like some miniature stock clams?"
He kind of makes a slightly quizzical look and he goes, "Well, try anything once. Here." He holds out a hand.
There's a lemon fruit in the fridge. You'll want that.
Theron snaps a couple of them off of the stalk and sort of crunches them just a little bit, like not enough to totally break them open, but enough so that it'll be easier for him someone who doesn't have his hand strength to open the shells, and passes them to Kanix.
Once again, Theron never misses an opportunity to talk about his hand strength.
Okay, he takes it. He goes over.
Each of us contributes to the team in our own way, Sidra.
When you say fridge, is this like a regular fridge, or is there some kind of weird fridge adjacent thing that you're imagining here?
No, we've established that they have a regular fridge, or
we
something that
definitely
functions
have a
as
regular
a
fridge.
regular fridge.
Yeah.
Well, I know you do have a regular fridge, but I want to make sure that's what Sidra means.
Yeah, it's in the goat. It's a straight up regular, fancy future fridge. So probably like there's ice in the door.
Okay. So he will go over, open up the fridge. I'm imagining basically this thing that just looks like a lemon but is like comedically large, that's like taking up an entire shelf of the fridge now. That basically has a piece of the kind of peel pulled away, so you can kind of reach in and basically just pull out like individual like kind of pulp sacks from inside. So I guess he does that, kind of pulls one out and kind of slathers it intensely over the clam, closes the door, and I imagine there's like glassware or something, right? Like,
yeah, it's probably all like simple metallic cups and plates and such.
Mm-hmm. Like a few random brighter ones that people have bought at various bazaars as we visited places.
Yeah.
Okay, he grabs something and he basically, thinking slightly ahead, he's like, I'm going to prepare myself a glass of ice water in advance. So he gets some water, get some ice into it. As soon as that happens, Theron, like your mind kind of casts off again, and this time you just kind of have a combination of, more intensely the sight of shadows moving underneath a sheet of ice, and then the kind of sound of skittering limbs in the back. Puts the ice water down on the table, slurps the clam. His face kind of makes a series of changes through, kind of curious to intrigued to happy to significantly less than happy to confused to maybe happy again, back to confused, kind of screws up one side of his mouth for a second, like the taste of the lemon is now just really hitting him, and it's like really sour. And then he makes a big dramatic swallow, chugs the water, puts it back down. Whew. Well, that was something.
Yeah, I should have told you. Citra doesn't have taste buds.
I do. They're just not the same.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to accomplish, or should we cut forward to?
At some point during the voyage, Dang is gonna sort of take Theron aside and say, "So Theron, about these visions, you care to tell me a little bit more about them? Like, where do they come from, and are you compelled to act on them?"
Do you remember that certain of my species are hosts to energetic beings called the Mechoi?
I do remember that.
This is an idea that is certainly, it's been exposed to you before. It's your choice as to whether or not it's something Dang retains, but it's not it's not like a super secret thing.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't remember whether Dang had specifically encountered it before in our adventures or anything. Yeah, so you're saying that you've got one of those things whispering in your ear.
It's not so much a whisper as a full body shout.
Oh, that's so much better. Look, I don't want to deny your connection with the divine, if that's what you want to call it. But I'd just like to remind you, there's one captain on this ship.
Yes, Molly.
Right. Not two. One.
No.
Okay then. And
Very good.
Shuffles
so if you
away.
Have concerns, you should probably take them up with her. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, Dan kind of shuffles away, keeping an eye on Theron.
Would he do the like 2 fingers to his eyes, 2 fingers to his Theron?
He doesn't have 2 fingers.
Would.
Not quite.
if he had fingers to do.
Yeah, he's got to do that gesture with both arms, basically. He has to take both tentacles up to his eyes and then swivel them around.
And then shoot beams at them.
Mm-hmm.
Little laser pointers.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. No, he doesn't do that around a cat person.
Oh boy, things that we have to like do a side scene about at some point. Jeez. Okay, so the trip is mostly pretty uneventful. You're entering into Nasiri space, so there's some basically like border inspections kind of set up at points along the process, just kind of checking into you. You could blow past them, but like the potential consequences of that are not necessarily ideal, so usually you're going to kind of want to stop. Nobody that you talk to on those is like thrilled that you have an Ilaroi on board, but like it's not like it's a problem exactly. They just don't really don't particularly like you. So the feeling, I imagine, is often probably mutual. So
it's 100% mutual, although it is complicated by the fact that like Theron is also exiled with extreme prejudice. Right.
Right. But otherwise, nothing particularly out of order. So they kind of pass you along, and you can eventually drop off the bones in the Malice system. The planet Malice 5 is pretty difficult to miss. It's way bigger than anything else besides the sun in the system. It's bright blue, and as you get closer, he's able to kind of direct you. There's a particular moon, asteroid, rock, planet thing called Enmity that orbits around the planet and is where they've particularly built up the space. So most of the surface of this thing is just this pure, kind of purplish gray rock, some of these kind of gemstone, lightly glowing, deposits are visible in places on the surface, but not a lot. Most of that stuff is on the ground. And the actual station, there's kind of a dome area, kind of visible from outside, basically, kind of just like a metallic, kind of curved, kind of base area. But the actual entrance points are underground, and they have, kind of landing pads set off some distance from the actual facility.
Okay, so presumably we head the Chimera down to one of the landing pads.
Okay. You're already pre-cleared for arrival. They know that Kanix is coming in with you. When you land, there's a small kind of delegation waiting for you. 3 people, of various species. There's kind of a funny kind of like, awkwardness of the way that these guys are costumed, because each of them is wearing this kind of greenish cloak with this symbol that is kind of this abstract, like it's a planet in the sense that like you draw something like Saturn, like a circle with kind of a ring around it to illustrate that it's a planet and has an eye on it, right? So they kind of have they each have like a hood that kind of like has like a pin or something that kind of holds it, on them with it's kind of metal like engraved with this pattern and everything. But they're also just kind of each wearing an outfit that kind of like fits what they actually do. So a couple of them have these kind of scrubs or other kind of like, work attire, and one just has like a kind of overly tight conservative suit that he's wearing this over, so he looks particularly ridiculous. And they're basically waiting to greet you with they each have one of those small rebreathers too, and so they're waiting to greet you with kind of some of those. And as you get off the ship, they're just like, they're happy to see Kanix. They recognize him. Oh, welcome. We're so glad to have you. They hand out rebreathers to everybody. Like our transit, we have a tram to the station just down here if you want to join us.
Sure.
All right. So yeah, you kind of head down. It begins to bring you inwards. The guy in the kind of overly tight suit steps forward to kind of take lead on the conversation a little bit at this point. He goes, "Hi, I'm Derod. It's nice to meet all of you." He kind of like offers this kind of weird ceremonial bow that looks like extremely practiced, but also like extremely awkward.
Like he's thinking too hard about it, or like what's awkward about it?
No, just like the gesture itself is kind of awkward. Like,
okay.
Like it looks like he's practiced hard to do something that does not look elegant in any way. He goes, welcome to our facility. It's always wonderful to have more people coming to learn about the mystery of the living.
The mystery of the living?
Oh, are you new to the mysteries that we maintain?
Honestly, I don't know of any mysteries.
Okay, so this tram is kind of going along. Kanix kind of chuckles to himself and like turns around to basically talk to Molly about something and not participate in this part of the conversation. And so Derod starts kind of his face kind of lights up. You kind of want to imagine this guy as basically one of these like door-to-door religious kids in the suit who like actually had somebody take them up on it for once, and so he's really excited he gets to do his routine. Like more excited almost that somebody's listening to him than he even is about the material. But he starts to go on about how like in all of the mythology of like 1,000 spacefaring races, like all of them have spoken of like these these existences that like predate all of this other civilization, that these like living planets basically. And it's obvious like immediately that whoever's pulled this together, this is a very tortured interpretation of a lot of different galactic like mythology, right? Like they're really kind of finding excuses to shove stuff in together here. But he starts talking about how these like living planets have like, there's all this evidence throughout like the galaxy that they must have existed, and they're so mysterious, and that only those who are like the most dedicated and can like follow all the different pathways will be able to locate them and gain access to their wisdom, and
Hero with 1,000 faces and yada yada.
Right. Yeah. So so these guys basically set up like observation towers and stuff like that in different places where they suspect that something is like a sleeping planet, basically, that if they can watch, that it'll wake up, or that they can investigate and they can find out what it is that will actually kind of let them open communications with it. And it's like, and someday this is going to work out, because they've been doing this for a while and they have yet to actually find one.
And they're talking about literal living planets? Like
yeah.
Planets that have sentience and are alive?
Yep.
Okay.
So he'll excitedly talk to you about that and start going off into the minutiae.
Yeah, I'll totally listen to all of it.
Yeah, and he's like, speaking as a planetary philosopher, when we look into the works of the ancient thinkers, and he kind of just goes off into like La La Land on this, talking about like, the theoretical like ethical underpinnings of like greater intellectual existence, and like what theories of ecological like preservation have to do with the existence of these these living planets, and yada yada yada. So he'll talk your ear off about that for as long as you want. It's probably about a 15-20 minute ride on the tram to get to the station.
I'll politely listen to it all.
I think Dang is probably real uncomfortable with this, because it kind of lines up with a lot of the philosophies of Quay, or maybe not in the message, but in the sort of the language and the generalization and talking about celestial bodies.
Oh, it's definitely familiar in that sense. Yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely if when you've been part of one weird cosmic mystery cult, like the through lines on those start to get pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
So Molly asks Phoenix, so what is it that you're actually doing here? I'm assuming you're not, looking for living planets.
Well, I mean, if you want, he kind of like pauses, like to kind of collect himself to not say anything that'll get himself in trouble on his first day. He's like, in order to study the potential of, living planets, in order to look for a sentience on the cosmic scale, one must do detailed investigation of the local biology of any place. All of the most thoroughly explored living planet myths all have intricate and detailed like relationships between the local biosphere and the smaller life, and how it interacts with the larger ecosystem and divine intelligence that animates the planet itself. So obviously I'm just going to be doing a survey. Like, I mean, there's we'll obviously that will be very useful for our, he kind of like rolls his eyes a little if nobody's looking, grand goal.
Yeah, I see. So when are we heading down?
I just need to check in with everybody, get some tools, get the approval of the boss, and hopefully we can head in. He looks visibly excited at the idea. So at this point, I think probably the tram starts to arrive, and Durad is like, let me bring you in. We'll get you equipped, and I'll introduce you, and then you can look into your next steps. Kenneth's just like, cool, sounds good. So, he kind of brings you through, once you get there, there's a lot of, there's a bunch of different people kind of wandering around. Everybody has these silly cloaks on, and like kind of the unifying factor here is that everybody basically got dressed and then they put one of these on over it. So like it has this kind of weird like vibe, just because the item of clothing that this cloak is, it's not really designed to be worn that way, but that's how everybody's doing it. So it just kind of feels like people who kind of like are halfway ready to go to a costume party or something. As he kind of walks you through, the facility's pretty nice because they've just, it's brand new. They've just built it. And it seems like they actually have a surprisingly large amount of funding, given that they're kind of crackpots. It's pretty spacious. There's a lot of kind of obvious, like fairly significant like facilities here. You kind of go by some fairly well decked out biological, labs and various, pretty sizable like, quantum computer banks and everything. And he kind of leads you into a relatively, central area where there's kind of a round room, and there's basically kind of a central table that has a holographic projection of the planet Malice 5 like floating over it, and kind of looking at it and kind of maybe rotating it, moving it around a little bit, with the controls nearby is someone, a Nasiri. You notice immediately that they're a little hunched over, and there's no obvious place for their wings to be. So it's a little disconcerting seeing somebody from the species where just obviously kind of not what you'd expect, and basically kind of dressed in a way that doesn't really acknowledge that, right? Mm-hmm. But she's kind of standing there and looking at it, and Durad leads you in, looks up at her. Eminence. She turns around, and Durad kind of does another different awkward bow to her as she does. She kind of steps down off of the spot that she's at, she's a decent bit shorter than Kanix when she's not like basically standing on a box. But she walks over and she goes, "You must be Kanix," and she kind of reaches one talon out to shake, which he eagerly does. "I am Ayet. I am the lead investigator of this particular facility. I direct everyone that we have here, and we are very happy to have you on board," she says. He kind of, Kanix is excited. He's like looking around, the whole place, kind of like peeking at the hologram a little bit. He's like, you have a pretty good setup here. And she kind of just smiles a little bit. She looks over. "Who do you have with you here?"
"Oh, hi. I'm Dr. Molly Harrow. Nice to meet you. I'm just an acquaintance of Kanix and was very interested in the work he would be doing here. So me and my crew, we're hoping we might get a little tour of the facility and learn more about the survey. Maybe visit the surface of the planet when Kanix heads down."
"Yes, we'd be happy to show you around." She goes, I'm actually just about to head over to one of our conference rooms around off to the other side of the facility. I'm actually I have a meeting with one of our major funders, and I'll show you around as we head over there if you'd like to come.
Sure, sounds great.
Okay, so she kind of hops down, basically just kind of waltzes off into the hallway. So she starts kind of walking through, and initially is just kind of giving the kind of high level tour, but just kind of pointing things out. Over here we have our genetic research labs. All of the most up to date technology. Working with some of the pioneers in the field. We're hoping to sequence more genomes here than we have on any previous planetary survey. Over here we have the geological research lab run by Dr. Vazut. He's really brought a new level of understanding to the study of deep core analyses and the neurological basis of planetary intelligence. She kind of goes through and is kind of pointing this stuff out. Is there anything you want to kind of ask her about or anything while this is going on?
Not specifically her, but as soon as she mentioned that they have a financer here, that's probably the most interesting or only interesting part of this whole experience for Sidra so far. So she immediately starts rifling through whatever network she can get access to and looking at connections and seeing who's what.
Okay. I will provide you more information about that in just a moment.
So we are on Enmity, right?
Yep.
And the planet below us is Malice. Which number? 4?
5.
Oh, 5.
That's that.
You went better.
Theron raises his hand. What is the largest megafauna that you have cataloged on Malice 5 as of yet?
She kind of looks over. She's a little bit surprised about the question, just because she didn't really get the she wasn't expecting something kind of that specific, I guess,
sure.
from one of the people who just kind of is along for the ride, it seems like. She goes, well, we have indicators that there's something rather sizable, but previous expeditions to this particular planet have not made a great deal of effort to catalog that. So it's one of the items on our list, certainly, but we don't have that much information yet.
I suspect you should be looking in the water underneath the ice.
She nods. I think you are probably correct. We haven't sent anybody underwater yet. The ice is pretty thick in a lot of places, and we haven't made more than some cursory expeditions so far. We're hoping that our new recruit here, she gestures to Koenig's again, will be very useful in this with his particular biological background.
So what made you suspicious that Malice 5 might be a dormant sentient planet?
There are some ancient writings. It has one of the 127 profiles of potential planetary sentience. Ice planet, noticeably large, ideal source for greater than normal levels of magnetoelectric planetary neurology, opportunities for intelligence to develop in a single network across the entire planet. There's a long list of reasons, but we had it spotted as a secondary item on our list some time ago, and a new source of funding made it possible for us to actually bump it to a more immediate investigation.
Oh, can I ask about that? Because I'm really quite impressed by this facility.
Oh, well, we're almost, she kind of indicates the room that you're about to enter. You can bring this up directly. Come, just follow me. So she leads you in, and there's a table where somebody is kind of who's not wearing any of these Stewards of the Living outfits, has kind of his back turned to you, talking with a couple of the scientists. And as she enters, he turns around and kind of looks over and goes, yeah, you are here. I've been having this lovely conversation with some of your associates. And she goes, yes, let me introduce you, Koenig's and the crew of the Chimera. This is our investor, Legion Stone.
Yeah. Wow.
He leans forward and offers to shake your hand.
Yeah, Molly shakes his hand.
So one of us has met this guy before.
Yep.
Yeah. Dang is fairly surprised.
He kind of looks over, glances past you. It's hard to say if there's any obvious visible recognition or not.
Cold-blooded.
He kind of turns back to you. I'm very impressed with how quickly you've been able to assemble this facility. I thought that this might be able to work out well in situating you to begin your research here, but this is very impressive. She's just kind of, we built out this, and she's kind of going into the, relatively boring details of the facility a little bit. Sidra, you are able to track a rather significant amount of money attached to this guy back to, an endless parade of shell companies. With basically the moatnet access that you have right now, that's about as far as you can really get.
Probably I'll send not so much red flags as yellow flags to Molly's goggles.
Molly will text back sort of a question mark.
Trying to figure out how best to convey this. Probably just be direct, I suppose. There's just a little text that says lots of financial chicanery going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Dang will, as subtly as possible, try to put himself bodily in between Legion Stone and Molly without completely obscuring each other, just being a little bit in the way.
So Molly's going to step a little to the side so she can see Legion Stone better. And she's going to say, so Ayet was telling us that you were the new financier for this facility. Is it just you, or do you represent someone? Or
I have. He kind of looks around. He's like, I've always had an immense interest in the details of gigacryptozoology. I find the idea of these intelligent planets fascinating, and the only way that anything will ever be done with these is with a reasonable and reliable source of funds, and I happen to possess such a source of funds, so it seemed like a natural arrangement. Theron, you would definitely, I was thinking about this, but you would definitely have the strongest sense of smell here. So as you get close to the guy, it's very obvious and strongly the smell of kind of like burning paper.
Theron's muzzle twitches a bit. Theron is also, combat-related body language is definitely his jam.
Mm-hmm.
So he's noticing how even more protected than usual Dang is being about this guy.
And given that context, you can also tell that although Dang is being extra careful about this guy, he has no potential violence body language whatsoever. Like he seems
he's very much at ease,
entirely relaxed.
Okay. Making no overt threatening motions, but just adjusting the way that his body is at rest, so that to just sort of maximize the ease with which he can go for his sword. Just like changing the way that his hands rest against his legs, essentially, a little bit. He'll sort of maneuver over near Dang so that he can lean over and whisper, "What has you on edge?"
I don't think Dang responds verbally to that, because I'd imagine we're still pretty close to be having a whispered conversation. Covertly.
Mm-hmm.
Dang just sort of glances at Theron, goes back to boring holes with his eyes in this guy, and sighs, not sighs with a he doesn't sigh with weariness, but just to sort of fill himself with oxygen. Kind of.
Okay. Sort of an angry sigh.
Yeah.
Like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. That's getting a little weird in here.
Yeah.
He kind of leans over and goes, well, it's been lovely speaking to you, but I must speak with Ayet in more detail about the disbursement of additional funds. We will have to take your leave now. A pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you too, Mr.
I'm
Stone.
sure. Actually, before you leave, here's my card. If you guys find anything and you want to protect your IP, just let me know.
He takes it and he looks at the card, and then he basically does one of those, like, wavy hand tricks where he kind of waves it and the card disappears. And he kind of makes a little salute to you.
I salute right back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the best in biz.
They kind of file off somewhere. Durod kind of comes back over at this point, and he goes, we've arranged for your requested tools and materials. If you're interested in moving onward, we can prepare you for an expedition right away. He goes, well, I'm ready. I mean, I was born ready. Hook me up.
Yeah. It's, go to a giant icy planet called Malice 5.
So since you guys are all along, basically they have a few cases of equipment and materials that they're happy to kind of just bring back over to the Chimera, put in place, give you basically some information about the marked survey spot that they have first on their item, and go ahead. We look forward to your findings.
Okay, so I guess we're going to take the Chimera and head down to the designated spot. And kind of once they're heading down, if Koenig says anything, he needs to prepare. So there's a time when it's basically just the crew.
Mm-hmm. He's got stuff to fiddle with.
So Molly's going to kind of look over at Sidra and say, so this guy seems to be some kind of financial player. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not sure that he's necessarily a player, but he's definitely hiding behind a lot of walls.
How long do you need to get through them?
Give me a few minutes and I'll see if I need more minutes. Throughout the trip, I'm going to be digging hardcore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I figured once you're on the Chimera, like you at very least have access to like whatever preset networks you have. Like it's just easier doing research when you kind of have all your stuff in your own office and everything. So you can kind of get started on digging. If you want to give me a roll now.
Yeah. All right, I'm rolling for something. Usual 9. 5, and then whatever scale interaction happens.
Yep. So here's what what you can get. This guy, Legion Stone, is actually, legally and financially speaking, Legion Stone the 8th. He is the possessor of a rather sizable inherited wealth that has been passed down individually in sequence from previous Legion Stones. There doesn't seem to be a lot beyond that one direct familial line in terms of the transfer of that funds. It's kind of weird, like in that sense. Like each individual one, it all seems to be on the up and up. But like you'd expect any kind of like long-term generational wealth to get a little messier,
Yep.
He in particular is the CEO of an extremely blandly named Galactic Holding Company, which is connected to another holding company, which is back through 8, 9, 10 different shells. And eventually at some point meets up in a very indirect way with some like ABC XYQ corporation that you found previously that itself had some long tenuous connection to Galactic Collections LLC. So the path meets back up with some of your past research there. The only other thing that you really get here is tracing it back some way. Legion Stone the First is kind of the one with the most notable kind of historical record. It seems like he founded and ran like basically like a single planet, like kind of like food conglomerate, like nothing really that strange at all, like a basically kind of like a Kellogg's or something. And he was kind of the founder, like kind of a little bit of a personality, like somebody whose name and kind of image was kind of used to promote all these different foods on the planet and everything. But a business that really was pretty didn't really seem to have a lot of aspirations beyond that. No galactic like expansion, no obvious like areas of motion outside the stuff that you'd kind of expect a food business to do. There's a number of products that have stylized images of him, and the guy is a spitting image for the guy that you are talking to. And basically he has like a long history, probably like 40 years of running this company, pretty relevant on the planet but low-key otherwise. And then there was kind of an external unexpected acquisition. All assets, pulled up stake from that planet, and the exact corporate history from that point on is fuzzy at best.
Yeah, I'm going to forward Molly first that picture, and then selected selections of that information.
So how long ago did the first Legion Stone, like what was his ostensible birth and death dates?
You're talking like, in Earth-ish time frames, probably like, I don't know, like 250-ish years ago.
Okay.
And I mean, this is a question that's really for Braden's benefit, but Dang saw the person who killed Shoot. This does not look like a lineal descendant of that person. This looks like that person, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, as soon as that detail comes up about the 8th, if Dang is privy to that, he's going to say, he's not the 8th. That's him. I know him.
Wait, you've met this guy before?
He was there in Quay's throne room at the end. He killed my friend Shoot. Now, I say this not to distract us from any mission that we might be on. I don't particularly have any problem with whatever his mission might be. I just wanted to make you aware that he's duplicitous and ruthless. And yeah, I've got a pretty major beef with him. But I can deal with that in our off time.
Well, so we should go explore this planet, and then when we are done exploring, we will come back and help you get your revenge. Theron claps him on, not the shoulder, but like the back, like sort of the hump, I guess.
Dang's a little bit uncomfortable again. We'll think about revenge. If it comes up. Let's say that.
If it comes up.
So this guy killed your friend, and you think somehow maybe connected to the company that's pursuing Sidra?
That, especially given the previous 2 minutes of this conversation, seems increasingly likely.
Yep.
He seems to be interested in intelligences. Ones that aren't traditional, I guess. I mean, no offense, Sidra, but
oh no.
But yeah, that's weird. I have some experience with I don't know, galactic level intelligences. They're nothing to mess with, right? Like, probably let sleeping dogs lie. I would, if Malice wants to keep sleeping, I would just let it keep sleeping. Don't wake it up.
Yeah, it's not usually a good idea to wake up things named Malice.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Anything else anyone can think of about this guy that maybe we should know, or that we do know?
Well, anyways, we're here to help your buddy, right?
Yeah.
And then
that's one
also
of the things
to
we're here for.
help Theron with his vision quest. Is it a quest? Are we supposed to do something when we get there?
I suspect that I will know what to do when it is time to know what to do.
It's a very Theron answer. Okay. Well, I guess just keep on keeping on, right? Like, this guy, Stone, Lee Stone? Legion Stone. It's a weird name.
It's not too weird for an Ardori.
Really? I guess I don't know too many Ardoris.
Yeah, I don't have a real regular type name. They all have names like that.
I see.
Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Well, we'll just keep an eye out on him, right? Like, maybe he's part of this, maybe he's not, but, we're not going to be here that long.
I mean, I guess for now, we're peripheral to each other.
Yeah.
And for Sidra's sake, maybe we should just keep it that way, at least for now.
Yeah, don't bring any undue attention to it until we figure out exactly what kind of resources this guy can bring to bear, right? I mean, it's not like he can just blow up an asteroid or something.
Okay, I gotta cut it there. That's gotta be the last line of the show.
You did not think that was funny. Hang on.
That's it this week for the Chimera. Join us back here in 2 weeks for another episode, or find us online at thechimera.space or on Twitter and Facebook at ChimeraPod. As I mentioned up front, this season will be drawing to a close over the course of the next few episodes. We'll be coming back to the universe of the Old Bones in Season 3, but in between we have an all-new game of Dungeons & Dragons, which will be run by our other senior GM, Kelly. We've been working on our characters for a while now, and I think it's going to be a really interesting campaign. Look forward to it, I implore you. Also, a reminder to check out the Trinity Continuum Kickstarter, which you should just Google because Kickstarter has really crappy URLs. We're definitely looking forward to... Did I already say we're definitely looking forward like 4 times in this? Oh well, whatever. We're definitely looking forward to having proper finalized rules for Season 3, because we're the kind of people who enjoy updating our character sheets with new sets of numbers. I think that's everything. So thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sorry, I have like 5 more chips and then I'll stop crunching, I promise.
Okay. We will give you the space of 5 chips.
Okay.
Chip space.
Now I feel pressured.
It's not a race because it's just you.
You never competed against yourself.
It's a race against time. What are you talking about?
That's right. Yeah.
That's true.
Like all the best races.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I think that was more than 5 chips.
It was, but it was 5 mouthfuls of chips.
Ah, okay.
This is mostly like chip bits, and I couldn't quantify.